Hello, digital warriors, and welcome back to the Forge of Unicorn podcast. Today, I am really excited because we have a guest that is another CEO of an important company, Noël Bauza, tech founder passionate about neuroscience and scientific method, and CEO of a company, They. They is automating ESG management and compliance and is navigating the tight European regulation and, most importantly, they are creating a lot of software to improve the quality of the humankind, especially in the compliance sector and in the sustainable and ecological impact. With Noel, we will tackle how software is a big factor in his company and how creating software in the proper way can reduce one of the biggest plague on the market nowadays, that is burnout and disengagement. Without further ado, because as usual in the intro I start to be without voice, I want to greet Noel. Noel, welcome here.
Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure, buddy. And this is the most difficult part of the interview for me every time, because prove my dyslexia, and typically, despite doing a lot of sport, I be always without breathing. I need to improve on this part, I guess. But I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, especially because I believe that a lot of the digital warriors out there, they don't know what is ESG. So please, take the stage.
To present myself or ESG or both?
Both, as you prefer. I would love to start with you as a human being.
Maybe starting with me. Okay. So I'm Noël Bauza. I'm the founder and CEO of They, which is one of the European leader in ESG and CSR software management that enables company to pilot, to monitor, to report, to improve and communicate on their environmental and social actions and impacts. And basically what is ESG? ESG is for environment, social and governance. And it's more of financial term at first, which is the measurement and reporting of data about environment and social to at first investors, but more and more through compliance and through the new regulation at the EU level, reporting to all different kind of stakeholder, employees, customers, and investors, markets, and every stakeholder of the company.
Okay. Do you have a tactical example of what could be a regulation about the ESG so that people can understand with a tangible?
One of the main one today is the CSRD, which is one of the most ambitious one in the world. The concept is to enforce to companies that makes more than X million euros of revenue or have more than X employee. They force them to measure precise data on the environment and social issues, such as how many CO2 I emit, what is the percentage of my waste that I recycle, how many hectare of biodiversity do I change and erode every year, how much water I consume for every product I sell, what is the share of women in my board, and report those data in standardized documentation every year that is published and seen by the stakeholder. But even further than this, with this regulation, those data will be open source and published at the EU level, which means that tomorrow, any employee, any talents, any investors, any customer that want to compare companies will be able to get access to the standardized data, do some benchmarks, why not some scoring in order to choose which company is the best if I want to work with impact or if I want to consume the best, car in Europe. So this is one example that is more linked to reporting. You have a lot of other regulation, which is not for reporting. It's more for ensuring that company don't pollute too much. So it's giving standard on how many CO2 you can produce per units of units you sell, what kind of pollution you can emit, or which are the ones that are banned. But we are really specialized into the reporting of data, not into the ban polluting entities and chemicals.
Wonderful. What I love in this example that you brought alive is the data-driven approach. That is deeply connected, and I want to hear your side of the story with your belief of science-driven and data-driven, isn't it? Data is power if you know how to use it properly.
Well, data itself is not power because you need to use the data to have the power. But
Yes.
you cannot have power to change things if you don't have the data. And you talk about science, but the scientific process needs data to ensure that our hypothesis is the right one and we're going in the right direction. And today, humanity is facing one of its worst challenges with climate change, with biodiversity degradation, with water scarcity, a lot of place in the world, but also some resources that are getting depleted, like sand. We never think about sand, but if we don't have sand, we don't have roads and buildings, and we're getting out of sand. So there's all of those issues in the environmental, but also in social, like inequalities. And we need to, as a human species, to be able to understand the issue, measure it, imagine solutions, action plans, and verify that the actions and the solutions are actually efficient. And for this, we need data to understand the issue, data to verify the efficiency of the solutions. And without it, we are not an intelligent species.
Yes, for sure. This is what I love to connect with the idea of science-driven approach. So we have data to sustain an hypothesis. We do experimentation, and with the feedback loop, we can understand which is the direction, if it's the right one or the wrong one, of our experiment according to the hypothesis. That is something that I love because is, in my opinion, the base foundation of the modern engineering. Something that in software, it seems to me a bit far from these standards. And standards is indeed the word that I would love to use and inspect with you about the data that you have related to. Do you find that software is a funny environment in our industry because it's not regulated almost by any software can measure its quality or predictability? Or did you find some magic recipe?
Well, it's normal that we don't have the same standards of quality in software that we have in like food or in vehicles or air travel, because those other product or services needs to fit into quality standard or they will break and endanger people. In the software industry, we don't have the risk, so it's less verified and controlled, but also most tech companies usually launch with a very small team with limited resources. And so they have to produce a MVP, try it on the market, verify that it fits a need, and then build upon this need. So it's normal that it takes time to build a software that is qualitative, but even if you wanna say qualitative for a software, it's not as easy that like a car or I don't know, like some kind of food item. You can measure for a food item every nutriment, the calories. You can rate the taste of the consumer. For a car, you can rate the velocity. You can rate how much oil does it consume for every kilometer. So you have units of measure. For a software, especially SaaS software, as we do at Zay, you have some standards like 27,000 for security, 9,000 for quality, but it's not based on precise absolute and objective data. It's more of the management process that we put in place to ensure that the final output will be secure or qualitative. So as we don't have this quantitative data that you can you can compare software with, it's subjective. And because it's subjective, the only tools that we have to rate or measure the quality of a product, it will be Captera, for instance, or any scoring software that will enable users to say Trustpilot, for instance. Okay, this tool, I like it, and it's a 4 out of 5. But it's way too much subjective. And you can still create a company for 5 years without having any ratings.
Yes.
because the consumer, the companies are not looking those data when it chooses a software. They're just trying it, demo it, checking the price. If it sticks, they will equip it. Maybe they won't be completely happy, but yeah, still works. You don't have the pressure to have a perfect product in software. If you do, you can win the game because you'll have the recommendation, you will have your customer, they're going to talk about you to other customers, your churn is going to be reduced, but you uh, there's no pressure and there's no units of measure. So I don't see this changing for at least the next 15 years. Maybe one day we'll have an AI that will give objective proof about the quality of a software, but it depends too much of the need of the company. So yeah, it's not a good thing, but I don't understand that we don't have this in the software industry.
I ask you this because I come from a engineeristic background. And when still I was at the high school, I was studying as an electrotechnical electronical guy. And when I did my graduation as an high student, I got, I don't know if I have here in this library or in the library out there, I start to be out of libraries in this house. I have a very tough book that was all the data that you need to create the wiring here in an house or to have the proper static support from a bean in a static civil engineer calculation. All this stuff, I still use this book and this holds more than 30 years when I work on my project with the custom bike or the electrical car or with the race cars to save as much weight as possible because I do the dimensioning of the cable based on the kind of usage that I do. And I have specific data. Then I am a IT engineer working in software since I don't have even memory because I started when I was a kid. And in the industry, there is nothing like this that is publicly available. We have done a lot of research, especially after that I got involved into the Formula One world. And releasing open source the software craftsmanship dojo, we have found some, I want to call them instruments, to standardize somehow the way how we can measure the goodness, the quality of a software. But you are right, there are not universal measurement that can warrant anybody, from the customer to an investor to a CEO, that the software that we are creating is good. That is something shocking to me.
And even worse than this, the only kind of data that is infused into the software teams, it's more marketing, quantitative and not qualitative data. So how
Yep.
many traffic do you have? How many people click on this button and not this button? So you just know that you have to put it in this color. So it's marketing, it's volume, but you don't have data on the quality. How much does your product enables your customers to reach their goal and be happy? And yeah, not for now.
No, and surely the market, especially now with the very heavy push on AI, is not nudging in this direction. Because if we look at all the marketing hype around AI, everybody is talking about AI. Who is in the science part is providing, I mean, the father of AI and Nobel Prize, they are providing warnings about a too heavy market that is selling something that is not true, like consciousness, but everybody is working in a .ai company. They're selling super impressive elevator pitch that are still elevator pitch based on something that is creating on top of software that doesn't have any quality. To me, it's like purchasing a beautiful car without testing it. Who knows that when it is delivering your garage, it will work. Maybe if it even will start.
Well, it's maybe the only activity where you're allowed to do this, and I think it's permitted because it's not complicated to launch software, so it's easier to fail. If you launch like a car company, you're gonna invest billions into the design, the factory, so you're not able to have unhappy customers or bad press. When you launch you can be like with two friends, like in the US in a garage, in Europe, maybe like in an apartment.
Basement.
Yeah, you have in Europe, and you can spend 3 months to launch an MVP and low risk. You try it, doesn't work. Oh, okay, too bad. And this is, but if it works, you can become a unicorn and be and raise millions and become a millionaire in a way that you are not able to with any other activity. So it's easy and low risk, but it can be also very, very rewarding if it succeeds. So it's driving a lot of people trying it. A lot of tools are low quality. And this is only in the activity of software that you have this. I don't have in mind any other activity where you have those two characteristics.
No, indeed. I guess it's the unique, peculiar sector that has this intrinsic behavior. And indeed, what you said is absolutely right, because the success ratio of startups in the first 5 years is less than 90%. So only a few really can survive the 5 years test. After that, they can become a company with Trustpilot reviews, so with customer satisfaction and all the typical indicators that are showing you that as a customer, this is a trusted company. This is setting up, in my opinion, the perfect scenario to discuss about your company, because I'm pretty fascinated about your company is a company that does a peculiar job in a very niche sector based on SaaS, so on software, with a team that is not a small one. And so it seems to me that you found some good recipe. And we were discussing about customer and customer satisfaction. Looking at your company, you have plenty of customers and they are all satisfied. Do you have something like, if I'm right, more than 10,000 organizations on board in your platform? Can you tell more about your customer journey, the satisfaction, how you arrived to this point of a trusted customer in your platform?
The quality of the tools and the satisfaction of the customer in the beginning of the day, it wasn't as high as today. Obviously, like every other software company, we start very small, we have a limited functionality, but the vision we had for what we wanted to do since the beginning, this never changed. And so we had a chance to survive the 5 years. In 2 months, we'll have 10 years. So it's a big step for us.
This is a big achievement.
Yeah, we're pretty happy about this. And in the 10,000 companies, you have some direct customer, indirect customer. You have small companies. You have the biggest market capitalization in France. So it's very, very varied in terms of the customers who we serve as companies. What we think works well and why the customer are promoting also they to their other customers, that we did the thing a bit different than a lot of competitors that were that launched at the same time a few years ago when the CSRD, so the big regulation that we talked about, launched. Everyone tried to do the same thing, a reporting tool to answer CSRD, just like one other model to integrate inside the tool. And so we built something that is not one offer, one platform for one referential and one need. We created something much wider that can integrate any different referential for any kind of need in the companies. Needs for like the one who wants to start working on CSR, the ones who need to report to the investors. And so we create a matrix, something much more complex at first, but that is way more adaptable. And now we can work on 10 new referential per week. And so we have more than 1,300 private and public standards and referential. And so the customers, what they say, what they like is that you didn't just create one module because you have the market to do it and it only sticks to one of our needs. You create an architecture or something that can stick to every needs that we can have inside the same platform. So this is the main success of Zay. It was more complicated to launch it at first, but now that's so adaptable, we can target way more companies than our competitors. And the companies are happier because we stick with 100% of their needs and not just 20% or 30% or 50%. So it was a risk at first because it cost us a bit more money. Thanks to this, on the market, we have a clear advantage now in France, but in Europe, we're advancing and not letting competitors try to catch up. And the final aim, the final vision that we have to do at Zay, which is now that we have all of those data on ESG from all of those companies, how do we create benchmarks, create tools to communicate the results to the stakeholders? And this is even a plus where companies know that they are not just doing ESG because they have to. They're doing ESG because we need to as a civilization. They need to improve their environmental and social issues. And the fact that we share those values with the CSR director in the companies enables them to be not just user but allies. And they're going to tell us, okay, this is not working the way that is most efficient. Okay, let's do a chat, and I will help you to improve on it instead of just a customer and seller tool. So this alliance that is created thanks to this shared value for ESG, I think it's one of the recipes of success for.
I like your picture. When you were discussing, I got a sort of eureka moment in my head because your description is a lot different than the description of a lot of CEOs talking about the history of their organization. The pivotal moment that I see in your narrative is that you decide to go to a user-centric approach fitting their needs. That was more complicated to create the solution at first in the process to scale an organization from scratch. And this is a bold move. Couldn't it be that this is related to your way to be a leader due to your passion of science driven, but also to neuroscience? That is one of the aspects that intrigued me the most when I got your profile on my desk.
I don't think that neuroscience, neuroscience help us is a part of the project that we have with Zay in the midterm. For now, we're at the phase 1.1 of Zay, which is equipping only the companies for now.
Mm-hmm.
In France, in Europe, and maybe why not tomorrow in Asia and everywhere. But we wish to go further in this, and we have planned a phase 1.2 and phase 1.3. The phase 1.2 will use a bit of neuroscience, and it will be to enable to create apps for the customers where they can easily scan a product, understand the ESG impact of the company, compare this company with the other in the same sector, and we'll have a lot of other functionality that works thanks to neuroscience, that we know, that gamification, reward, maybe why not social recognition built in to have on the same platform the companies that are improving the impact in communicating and the individuals that are going to use the data and use the gamification and reward tools to support the best companies and create a positive feedback loop where the companies that are the most invested are the one who has the better ROI, because they will find more customers, more employees, more investors. So but this is for the midterm. On the short term, neuroscience is not really the things that drive us, but it's more broadly the scientific method. And I'm passionate about science, and that's why I started working in ESG and environmental issues more than 10 years ago, because I understand pretty quickly the size of the issue that we had to tackle. And what's amazing with the scientific method is that if you integrate it into your culture inside a company and everyone tries to follow it, it's the most efficient way to run a company to any other option. Because with the scientific method, you start by defining a hypothesis. Okay, I think the customers are going to want this, and the best way to do it is like this. Then you launch an MVP, for instance. You check the results on the market, and you check data, and you iterate again. And maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, and you have to switch. And you do this all the time with all the subjects. And it's the best way to improve in the best path, because it's data driven. That's because you never get stuck into like a belief where you're gonna drag your resources, and in two years okay, we failed because the market wasn't here, or we didn't have the impact that we wanted to have. And so the more closely you stick to the scientific method, the more likely you are to succeed, because your decision and iteration are the what is closest to the truth. So closest to the needs of the market, closest on the best way to launch a product or to improve it. Many other founders, I think, in the tech industry, and I must admit that also I was a bit like this also at first. When we
Mhm.
create our company, we create our platform, it's a bit like our baby. And once your baby is perfect and you don't want to change it, it's emotional. Oh, I want to do it like this. It's going to be like this.
Yes.
And if people don't want to buy it, they're wrong. And I'm going to find the one who are really, who really want it. And it's not easy to take a step up and say, I know it's my baby, but if I really want to have a positive impact on the world, I need to be data driven. I need to stick with not what I think it's best, but what the data and reality show me as the best path. So I would recommend to use the scientific method in every company, every department, because it's the most efficient way to advance as a company, but also to advance as a civilization, as humans.
It is beautiful what you just described because you call it scientific method, but do you know that in software this is extreme programming, what you just described?
It's
So
what?
the extreme programming, because because extreme programming is indeed growing on the top of the idea we need to be customer centric. In extreme programming, indeed, there is not the concept of product owner; is the development team that talks directly with the customers, and then they do spikes to understand which is the technical solution or the product solution that fits the hypothesis. And this is a time box activity where they do an experiment to confirm their hypothesis was right. And is indeed a scientific method applied to software. Unfortunately, extreme programming is not mainstream because it doesn't have certifications. Nobody can attach a certificate on their wall. Everybody is looking to have the certificate of Scrum or Safe or whatsoever because they are commercial. But this commercial stuff is killing the market, creating what is indeed scarcity of talents. How many people can we find on the market that they are proficient with extreme programming and even more efficient with test-driven development? Because if you want to ensure quality, we need to replicate the engineeristic method of the other engineering fields. So if I want to do a static calculation of my building, I need to be data-driven to know that if I put a certain load on a beam, I can have this load because the beam can support 3 times more weight. How to do it on software? You need to design the test upfront how you do in engineering. So the engineeristic method and the scientific method is extreme programming and test-driven development. How many developers do we find on the market that they are able to do that? Less than 3%. That is
3%?
shocking. 3%. After years to do screening for large organization is less than 3%. I tell you another shocking truth. 1% of them, they work, almost all of them, in big companies like Meta, AWS, Microsoft, companies that they know that they find that this kind of culture that is craftsmanship driven with high salaries, because this kind of profile are really high paid. And the rest, you have roughly 2% of market that is fluctuating in the market. You need to find them, and they are looking for specific culture. So the ability to retain such a talent is very low. The chance to find them is very low with a traditional hiring by pedigree and curriculum. And the most impressive part is that if you put them in a team with people that they behave in a different way, the attrition is so high that they will leave or the team will implode.
3% seems very low. If 1/3 of them is going to work for Meta and Amazon, we have a huge problem because the price is mined. Could you work that doesn't really help humanity? I don't think it's the best use of their talents to work on advertising improvement.
No, it's very expense oriented. If you think nowadays, people with AI knowledge, scientific AI knowledge, not marketing, because this is the funny part. So we have companies in AI field that they are trying to create a software development with AI agents, that they are paying real software developers 1 million a year to create software to replace them in other companies, because this is the reality out there. So are these companies creating expendable? Is this ethical?
It depends on what the direction that we'll take as a human species. If AI is replace a lot of jobs and we create opportunities for the one who have no job, or some I don't know the term in English, minimum revenue for everyone,
Mhm.
could be
Base
like
salary.
yeah. I think that if Europe is the one leading this revolution, we will do the things right, and because we are a bit socialist. We are socialist as European in a whole, but if you leave this in the hands of the Americans, it's going to be this topic. Will AI replace a lot of jobs? I think that yes. I don't
Some
see it
kind, yes.
how it's not going to happen, but what we're going to do about this is the real issue, the real question. Even
Yes.
especially if you have Trump in the US, he won't have any uh, social programs in place, and it's going to be interesting to see. Ethical AI is a tool. Technology, is it ethical or not? It depends on what you're doing with it and how you react to it. It's the way you use AI that's going to be ethical or not.
Indeed. So technology is technology per se, is not doing harm to nobody. Even the nuclear power is something that is a technology that you can create a nuclear reactor to create electric power, or you can create an H bomb to destroy somebody, or you can create a therapy to destroy the cancer. And it depends on how you use it and the experience that you have as a user. And indeed, and this is a intriguing aspect, since I was released, the IT market got a very tough period with a lot of people that they lost their job. The amount of money invested in IT is rising from trillions to almost in the upcoming years, almost the double of the amount, because the forecast is due to the AI revolution that in a digital transformation to embrace AI as companies from 2 trillion and a half, it will move the global spent worldwide around 4 trillions. That 2 trillions and a half is roughly 9-10% of the global GDP. So we will arrive 15% of the global GDP use in digital transformation to embrace AI. This is a disruptive event that has disruptive consequences on human beings working in companies. I'm curious about your recipe with the scientific method, with your passion for neuroscience, about how you work with your employees. Because to me, it looks like that you and your employees have a relation that is like a family relation more than a corporate relation.
It's not pure family, because you need to have a corporate relation with your employees inside the company, between them, between me and them. So you have to be, you cannot be just relaxed. But I think, yeah, we have a more relaxed and family like relation than most companies. I think one of the reasons is that we are quite young in the company. The average age is around 36 years old, and I'm personally 33, so I'm younger than the average, and it's easier when you all have the same motivation. You know why you're here, because you want to have a positive impact. You're all in the same age range. It's easier to have a more close relationship with the employees than in a big corporation. And I think this is just like a normal evolution of a company. You start with your friendly relationship, and then you grow, and you have to have more middle level management, and in the end, you have your meta, where you have like 30 different level in the hierarchy with Zuckerberg at the top that no one sees. But I think that having not a friendly, but yeah, close relationship with the employees, it's important to keep the scientific method alive. I think any organization of humans works like a brain. You have the individuals, so the neurons, and you have the communications between the individuals, which is the synapse. Synapse in English? Synapses.
Yes.
The brain isn't smart because of the neurons. It's smart because of the interconnectivity of the neurons.
Yes.
So it's important to have smart neurons because you won't have a smart brain if your employees are not bright. But rightness, as you said, is not enough. When you were talking about the 2% that were in companies and they had to leave, it's because they have a hard time sometimes to coordinate and to get organized with the others. And so it's important to have this interconnectivity. And with me, my employees know that they can tell me anything. If they know they think that I'm doing a mistake, they will tell me, I think you're doing a mistake, and maybe I'm not. Maybe I don't agree. Maybe I'm not sure. And we talk about it. Maybe let's discuss and find the rest, who's right and which is the best solution. And you can do it when you have a friendly, family-like relationship. And it's the best way to keep this collective brain working. You don't cut synapses. You don't cut connection. You allow communication to go as freely as possible. So the organization is organized itself, solves problems by itself. And you don't have to have like one leader that's going to do everything and decide everything. And because no one can have a perfect knowledge of everything in the company. So you need to have this collective motivation and system in place.
I love how you connected this point with the neuroscience, with the synapse, with the neuron. And I guess that what we are describing is also the intrinsic concept of the neuroplasticity. So the ability of a brain to wire synapses under the pressure of positive stress that connects you pieces of the brain to connect pieces of information and intelligence in consciousness, and so in a way to solve issue out of the box with new neuroplasticity development. That is an intriguing concept to apply into an organization, because this leads me to an intriguing question about in a company that your business model is based on software, so creating a SaaS platform, let's say. Software is paramount important. How you ensure that your employees, they can grow over time, being able to create software that is with high quality, with high customer satisfaction, because we understood with the scientific method, connecting the user with your development team, you are able to avoid the pitfall of Scrum, having product owners that they dictate how a product should look like instead of letting the user deciding what they would pay for. But the technical part of the company is something that intrigues me. Do you apply the similar approach to let them grow technically, so that their technical master is growing accordingly to the digital disruption? Or do you have a secret recipe?
To enable developers to improve and grow. We don't have any magic recipe. The first thing that I think it's paramount if you want to enable not only the coders but all the employees to be able to solve issues by themselves is to have like full transparency on all of the data on the company. And so we have dashboard that any employee, even an intern, can access when they have access to the how much money that we make. We're gonna have like the traffic on the website. You're gonna have the where what the customers are doing. Every data that we collect, from marketing to finance, the customers' data, everything is accessible to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And this enables individuals to identify issues in the data and to try to solve it by themselves. And we especially we don't work on Teams, we don't work on Slack. We work on Discord. I think
Okay. Yep.
the engineers know a lot of Discord. We created a channel for any kind of data that can be relevant, and it's we get notified in real time about everything, in addition to the dashboard when you can follow all of the data. And this enables us to have transparency on everything, to be able to be reactive and not having a manager okay, I'm going to work on the data, see that there's a problem, but maybe I don't have time to solve it and gonna ask people. It's way more organic as a way to react and solve the issue if you have access to real time and full transparent data in all the company.
Because it looks like real empowerment. That is one of the final aim of real agility, that you provide your employees through data and continuous improvement with real power to decide, okay, what shall I do in order to improve the status quo to a notch up? I love it. I really love it. And I believe that with this recipe, your retention, your burnout level, your engagement, they are very healthy as indicators, isn't it?
So the retention of customers, yeah. The burn, we set the burn that we want to have with the board, but we are not aiming for a positive cash flow. Because the market and the CSR is growing for the next 2 years. So we know we raised enough money with the board. We have a lot of big investors that help us, and we stick to the burn in order to grow fast enough, but not too fast. But we decide this and we follow it with my COO every 2 days to ensure that everything is going well on this side. For the rest, the customer happiness is high. Our capacity to react to issues, to resolve bugs, is very high, and we are able to launch a lot of new functionalities and ideas because everyone can contribute. And so they feel that it's the tool, the platform, it's also their baby. It's also their making. And this is, I think, very important to ensure that everyone's going to give the best they have to make the best product. And it's just not a job I will just want to do for the money, and I'm going to do the minimum. And for this, again, you need to have a shared vision on the issue you want to tackle collectively. If you have this shared vision, everyone is going to advance in the same direction, and it's going to be to the benefits of the company.
In English, they say happy wife, happy life. I guess for you is also happy customer, happy employees, isn't it?
I don't know if it's happy customer that makes happy employees or happy employees that makes happy customer. I think it's a feedback loop.
Yes. But I guess the point is nevertheless that also your employees are happy because they join your company with a clear shared purpose and passion. That was the fight against the climate change. And they found an environment where transparency, empowerment, and scientific method, so real agility, is one core tenet of the development of the company. The customer are happy. So are your employee happy?
Well, if I trust our Glassdoor rating, yeah, I think we do QVT. In French, it's QVT, which is quality of life metrics every 3 months, and a lighter one every month. And you have sometimes high stress period when the market is changing. Usually, we're pretty good on this, and if it drops, it's one of the priority because as in any software company, your biggest cost and your biggest investments and your biggest resources are the humans. If you improve 5% of the human happiness, quality of life, you don't get plus 5% on results. You get plus 15%.
Yes. It's a multiplier.
Yeah, it's not like it's way better than just adding a few percent when you try to do thing in the right way. And so with this, you can have a small team and produce way more than a big company with people in tiny boxes that are not very committed, motivated. It's important because of the social aspect, but if you just want to see it as a financial cold way, it's also one of the best investments you can do in a financial.
Long term, yes, is the smartest of the options. And indeed, the research are showing that all the CEOs that they decided to go AI first, getting rid of all the human material in their organization, they are failing miserably. So I ask it for the sake of the recording, because so finally people can understand what a successful CEO is doing. I believe that you are empowering your employees with the right AI tools, not trying to chop their head with a cheap AI tool that does their job, isn't it?
Well, yeah. We have tools for the sales team, for the CS team, for the dev team, the marketing team, so every team. But it's a way to boost efficiency and to enable them to work on more interesting tasks most of the time, so they can do more with less time. And usually, when you're not stressed all the time with tasks and priorities, you have more time to innovate. And for now, AI cannot innovate by itself. And so it's a way to take the best of both worlds, innovation through connectivity, discussion between the teams, and what will be the new need of the customer in 2 years. Maybe you could do this also. It's not needed, but if we did, it could be amazing. The other tasks that can be helped by AI to leave more time for innovation.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm curious of the last thing here, because it's clear that your organization is moving in a direction that is human driven by design. After the COVID, did you order your people to return to the office like a lot of large corporation they are doing, enforcing return to the office policies, or how it evolved your way of working after the COVID?
So after the COVID, we went back to the office with 3 days in the office and 2 days in remote. We tried 3 days remote, and what I thought is that we had a bit less of communication and innovation, and so we scaled back to 2 days in remote. And I think it's the good equilibrium, 2 days. And we stayed on this model ever since. The dev teams are all in remote. They're everywhere in France, but the sales, the marketing, the administrative, financial, the CS, all are in Paris, and they have 2 days remote. Yeah.
This is beautiful because more social driven operation part of the company, they requires, and this is the data that we gather as well from a lot of our customer. For operational efficiencies, you need also human connectivity. So you need really to put salespeople one near the other. For developers, instead, due to their way of working, remote social programming with pair and mob programming with the latest technology to work from remote is providing the best results. Because, and this is last stuff that I have on my agenda for us, from the data that I have, it seems that working from remote for a developer is reducing what we call social noise, because in the office, developers are disturbed and so they cannot focus to do creativity and highly cognitive demanding work as development. Is this something that you have found as well?
I don't know if they work best at home, but what I think is that is one of the is one of the department that can work fully remote without the loss of connectivity, because the developer have integrated a culture to work on Discord, on Gather, on tools where they can have an equivalent of day-to-day physical presence, but online.
Yep.
It's something that you don't find as a culture in maybe other at Zay, at least, we don't see this in sales teams, in CS team, in marketing teams. So it works pretty well. I don't know if they're more efficient, but at least that they're not less efficient in terms of innovation and connectivity.
Honestly, with all the organizations that we have worked with, your model to have the technical people, so the developers, fully remote, and the other people, the operational part of the organization, instead hybrid, is the most efficient on human side, on financial performance, because you pay a lot less rent, and the people, especially on technology side, they have all the hours in saving commuting to develop themselves. That is a very important part with the high pace of technology disruption in software development. So yes, absolutely. What you found, again, proves that the scientific approach is what is helping organization to take the right decision. I see that the time is moving too fast. I would love to discuss for hours with you because there are plenty of stuff that I would love still to go deeper. But do you have something else that you want to share as the last highlight, drops, question, whatever, to our digital warriors?
No, except maybe one thing is that if you're talented, we need you in the impact sector, either social or environmental, because the issue that we have to tackle them fast, and we need bright people to solve such complex problems. So we won't be too much. If you don't know exactly what company to work in, there's a lot of amazing job boards or platform online where you can find impact-driven jobs in the impact-driven companies. We need you fast.
Yes, and with the market that is really disrupted, especially with talented people that they are not able anymore to live and survive in toxic organization without purpose and social impact. I guess this is a call for action for everybody is out there with technical acumen and talent. They want to make a difference. So ping sales, ping all the companies that are around. I guess a lot of your customer as well, they have the same shared purpose. So I guess that is a interesting suggestion and something that I would love to foster and share when we will publish this online. Noel, I want really to thank you. It was a lovely discussion. We touched a lot of intriguing topics that I really loved. Talk to you soon, maybe in Paris with coffee. Who knows?
Why not? Thank you, Michel. Thanks all.
Digital Warriors. See you in the next episode to tackle new problems, new opportunity, and less to survive to this digital AI craziness. Talk to you soon, guys. Remember, subscribe and smash comments and share all this episode because the market labor out there is really going crazy. And the suggestion that Noel put on the market can help a lot of fellas digital warriors to find the appropriate job to foster their passion. Talk to you next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.